I've had the privilege to go to some really beautiful places in my time, but this man, Andy Hay, Leeds legend, Rugby League legend, now Wolfman, has brought us down to Takapuna Beach. Andy, thanks for your little tour today. You've taken us around, a bit of a tour guide. You're really at home over here now, aren't you?
Yeah, no problem, Simo, thanks. And it's good to see some English boys over here and some friends. And this is not a bad venue to ply your trade. And luckily enough, I'm over here and doing what I love and being involved in rugby league still. So, Takapuna Beach, great venue, some nice background there. And I don't know if you see the shot of Rangitoto in the back, but it's pretty impressive. Been here over a year now and getting to know the place pretty well.
We've seen you play in some massive games, and one of the biggest games you're involved with when you were a young kid, and you're famous for getting a real big dig off Calvin Skerritt. It was a bad one at the time. I think with the Regal Trophy final, were it?
Andy! Oh, what about that? Send him off! Send the drifting edge off! Get him off the field! That was diabolical! Get him off the field! That's just typical of what it is! Get him walking! They don't like it! Walking, Campbell, if you've got it in bottle! If you've got it in bottle, Campbell, he should walk! That was absolute diabolical! It's going to be a yellow card! I can't speak!
Mick Morgan, fantastic.
Famous commentator.
Fantastic commentator at Cass, and he's done it for years and still doing it now. And you know, he's got nicknames for all the boys who play down there, and most of the other players who are special on his list for other teams as well. But I came off the bench in that game, and that was probably the first touch of the ball I had, and got a clean out by Kelvin Skerritt. It wasn't anything sort of rare in those days. That was part of the game. I think he probably did it a little bit too openly and got pinged for the penalty, but he didn't really catch me, to be honest. Didn't realise in the game, and for it to be as big as it is, and it's gone all over the world, and through Mick Morgan's commentary, and people then started realising, oh, is that you? Is that you? Is that you? And yeah, it was a massive game for us to play in back then. I was only a young kid. I'd have been about 19, 20, and to win that Regal Trophy in the fashion we did, that was more the memory for me until about 3-4 years ago when this commentary clip started coming up on social media. But yeah, great occasion.
What I wanted to ask you about is not really the clip or that moment, but more about the game. And my worry is that we've sanitised it a little bit too much. Obviously, the shoulder charge is gone. If a punch is thrown, you're banned. Jones has been banned 4 times in his career, 3 times last year for really. He's not doing anything different. Are you worried about the game itself and the actual combat side of it and that gladiatorial feel being lost completely?
Yeah, it's obviously it's a different game now, and I played through the changeover from winter to summer and the professional thing going full time. It's cleaned up. It's probably too clean. You're probably right, and you know, I think it's mainly around the business aspect of the sport and the sponsorship and everything else, and especially overseas when you're in New Zealand and Australia, you get the feeling that they don't want that because it does put people off, it puts sponsors off, it puts kids off playing the game, and I think it's more around that. For us guys who have watched the game and been brought up on the game and played on, you know, at Winmore or Bramley or wherever you played and wherever you grew up, and my field was Red Hill back in the day, and you know, if you didn't have a good scrap back then, you weren't really trying. So yeah, it's different, it's clean. The World Cup's not been too bad. There's been a little bit, but when you watch the Aussie game over here, they can't touch anyone. There's none of that. It's just out of the game, ruled out totally. So if they're doing it, I'm sure it'll come into England as well.
Mate, some of my happiest memories playing for Milford under-18s, and I honestly don't think there were one game in a full season without a fight. Absolutely epic. And playing some tough kids in the amateur game. But I wondered, obviously, we do a feature called Hard as Nails on Rugby AM, and I wondered who your top 5 toughest opponents were in your career. We're going to meet a few people over here in New Zealand and Australia and find out theirs. But what's Andy Hay's top 5 in reverse order from 5?
Oh, from 5. Well, I'll just give you 5 or some. I'm not sure if I can give you them in reverse order from 1 to 5, but maybe not an opponent. I played against him when he was pretty young, and then I moved to Leeds. So you've got to put Adrian Morley up there. He's going to be in the 5 somewhere. And mate, things he did, and when he came over to Australia, he's talking about the bash and the biff and all that, what they talk about. He's a legend in Sydney, and I don't know if you've been over there yet, and I know he was over there recently, and they still worship him for what he did.
Unbelievable.
You know, at the Roosters, and he was still doing it at Leeds, and he was doing it at Warrington when he came back, and one of the toughest players and a great friend, and a friend of most people here, but a legend and a real tough opponent player to play with. Just could put a shot on, and didn't always get his timing right, he tells me, but yeah, no, I like to put it on. So he'd be up there. A guy I met a couple of weeks ago, and I've not met him since I made my debut back in 1991 for Cass against Widnes, and I met Kurt Sorensen. He was at the Auckland Rugby League doing a feature for us, so I got to chat to him, and I spoke to him then, and mate, he was tough. He was a tough player, and that was a good team back then. And I mentioned to him I made my debut. He just said, "Oh, Kurt, great to meet you, blah, blah," and made my debut against you in 91, and all he said to me was, "Unlucky." So yeah, great comeback, and a real tough guy. He's just still a big guy, and I still won't want to argue with him, so a real tough opponent. One of the others, I think Lee Crooks, I played with him, didn't really play against him again, so played with him in his time at Cass, and he was a great captain, and he played in that Regal Trophy final, and he was outstanding in that game, and what a leader he was. One of the toughest front rowers I've played with, just he knew how to play. You know, I've seen him, his tackle technique, he put Paul Newlove back then when we played Bradford, and they were one of the top side. He put Paul Newlove out of a game with his tackle technique, with a sort of a headbutt as he went to tackle, and the referee didn't see anything, and it was all disguised. But yeah, tough trainer, tough opponent, and a great player to play with, and a really big drinker as well. So you wouldn't want to argue with him on the field, and probably not off it at the bar either. So maybe not an opponent, but again, a teammate. When I came through Wigan, that Wigan team, they were the top. You know, they were the top team. They were the benchmark for every club. And as I said, it went full time. And maybe not just one opponent in the team, but across the board, they had some pretty tough players, and they were really hard to get over and make any breaks. And maybe not toughest, but Ellery Hanley, I got to throw him in there. And he wasn't renowned for being tough or being a fighter, but he was mentally tough. You know, he was such a great player that you couldn't relax around him. You always had to be switched on, because he'd just pop up anywhere and he'd just keep going and playing. And I think that's why he transitioned overseas so well and played overseas. And he was a legend for Great Britain, and he was a real tough opponent. A little bit of a hero, you know, when I was young, but a great player. And lucky enough to play against him and be coached by him. Going back to Crooksy, he used to have a hating of Bishop at Halifax, so we'd play Halifax again. It was a tough game, always a tough game, and was down at Thrum Hall, and it all flared up at the scrum. Bishop had a go, Crooksy had a go at him, and it all kicked off. Everyone was in. The next thing, I seen Kyle Harrison coming straight for me, and I thought, oh, you know, I was about 18 at the time. I thought, oh, I'm going to have to give it everything here. So I took the biggest swing you've ever seen, connected flush with him right on the jaw, and he just didn't flinch, kept coming straight for me, and I'm just backing off. I'm like, whoa, you know, looking for teammates to come in, and to my joy, St John Ellis, you know, rest in peace now, and a player who's sadly missed, running from the wing and jumped in and saved me. But I meet Cal quite a bit, and you know, I don't think he lived it down back then, this young kid having a go at him, but he was a Great Britain front row at the time, and I don't think I lived it down either. It was pretty embarrassing at the time for both of us, I think.
Mate, it's great to see you. Thank you for your hospitality and your tour. I can't wait to get on a boat with you today. Mate,
no worries, mate. No
Cheers,
worries.
Andy.
Thanks, Simon.